This is way worse than we expected after the St. Louis Blues took a 4-0 lead and blowing a game to the Detroit Red Wings. We get a huge injury update around the team, but not only that. With some good news coming in, the Blues have a KHL prospect that's absolutely tearing up right now after recording a hat trick and being one of the most productive under 21 players in the entire KHL. We're going to break down everything you need to know to a key injury to the St. Louis Blues and this one prospect that is turning heads and more later on this episode. Before we get into that, I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone watching. And if you haven't hit the sub button yet, we're trying to reach our goal of 5,000 subscribers. So if you want to stay up to date on everything to do around the St. Louis Blues, from game recaps, prospects, trades, rumors, reports, anything you can think of, you can find right here on Blues Digest. So head down and hit that free subscribe button. It would mean the world. But with that, Darius, let's just go straight into it today. We're going to touch on an injury and everything around the Blues, but let's go into some decently good news around the Blues because it doesn't feel like a lot is happening right now on the good side. Now, looking at this, we can see a Blues prospect recorded his first hat trick, his first multi-goal game in the KHL, and going into his stats, he has been phenomenal. 13 points over 18 games, and we're going to get into some more stuff where he ranks in the KHL. But Darius, what is your initial thoughts on a 7th round pick really taking off in the KHL?
Yeah, obviously, let's focus on some good news, right? Because we'll get to that other stuff in a second. What a tire fire that's going on right now. But we covered this guy. For those of you who've been subscribed for a little while on the channel during the summer, Matvei Korotky from the KHL. And he's been ripping it up so far. We covered him in the summer in terms of, what's he going to be able to do this season at the pro level as well. And man, he is making an impact so far. He has 13 points in 18 games. I will maintain that I think it's harder, especially for younger players, to score in the KHL. And not just younger players, but younger players that aren't very big, right? He's 5'11", 170 pounds or something like that, Mark. I think he's a little bit on the smaller size, that's for sure, but he can put the puck in the back of the net. He's putting up points, gets, a hat trick the other day. So he's been putting in that work. And I think that's good news in terms of, when you look at the pipeline for this Blues team, it's a bit of an aging team. It is. And they made some good moves, at least in my eyes, this summer to ensure that, if they end up making the playoffs this year, we'll get to that in a second, they could find success. But in terms of the pipeline, man, they got a lot of really good players coming up.
And that's the biggest thing. You look at the AHL, even Dvorsky, Carbonneau in the queue. There's so many guys, but looking in the European League, you have KHL prospects coming in ranked 3rd in the under 21 in the KHL with 13 points, behind someone on the Nashville Predators and Chicago systems with 15 and 20. But seeing the development of this kid is awesome to see because, like we've been talking about, you have someone good at every pro level, the OHL, the Q, the AHL, anywhere you look. The Blues have a prospect that is turning heads and going into him. Shooting is his best offensive tool. He is in the dangerous areas very well, keeping his head and feet moving to get open and stay open for as long as possible. Darius, this is the thing with the Blues. Listen, they kind of suck right now. Let's be honest here. They're really struggling to get some wins. But when looking at the future of the team, you still have very good talent, very young guys on the team. Holloway's still very young, Broberg. But you have this second tier of prospects coming through the system. So when the Blues get into the contention window, which they're already in, once they get going again, but these guys are going to help with them going on dynasty runs, winning chips, winning multiple championships is something the Blues are going to look to do when their prospects come through. But Blues fans, before we get into this, who is your favorite prospect in the system? Is it Carbonneau, Dvorsky, someone we haven't spoke on? Let us know down in the comments, but let's go straight into what unfolded last night. The St. Louis Blues had some good players showing up last night. Robert Thomas, who we're going to touch on very shortly. Snuggerud looked great, but Darius, this is the team that went in, took a 4-0 lead, then looking at it again, 6-4 loss to Detroit. What is your thoughts on what unfolded last night before we get into this key injury?
This is not good. And I think that, Jim Montgomery called out his team to a degree and said, we got to show some fire. We got to show some fight. And I covered it in my last video on the channel that he basically said there's a lot of teams around the league that aren't doing that right now. They need to hold each other accountable. They need to maybe yell at each other a little bit just to get each other going, right? Nothing malicious or anything like that, but just like demand more out of each other. And I thought they got off to a great start last night, but man, they could not close the game. And listen, Detroit is playing really well out of the gates so far this year, right? So credit where credit is due, but you cannot lose a game that you go up 4-0 in. You have to close out that game. And, one thing I wanted to point out when you're looking at the advanced analytics, which only take you so far, sometimes you have to watch the games and the eye test and all of those things and where a player is mentally. But Robert Thomas, leaving the game. I guess we can get into that now as well with an injury. Hopefully he's not out long term. Had zero negative impact in this game. And I know that he left the game, but still, that's a huge piece now that you're missing, and he left with an upper body injury. So again, hopefully he's not out long term. That has serious implications on the lines that are already in a blender. He had a nice pass here to Neighbors, and they seem to be having some synergy there. Neighbors has had an unbelievable start to the season so far this year. So some things to like, but Mark, listen, they got to drag each other into the fight here. Again, I thought that they did that with the start, but they did not close out this game. So it's like, you're putting out one fire and it's like, great, we started great, but now there's more fires that you have to put out. And there's a lot of teams around the league. I'm not ready to hit the panic button yet, but this is way worse, I think, at this point than any of us could have imagined. And I would like to give a formal apology to all the subscribers of this channel. I don't think it's us, but it might be us.
And I mean, listen, we were talking about, we didn't do a pregame show yesterday because we thought we were the issue. We looked at the score and it's 4-0. We're like, hey, Darius, maybe we actually are a problem. Then they lost. So do not blame us for last night. But the big thing with the Blues is going in, losing Robert Thomas in the game. Listen, you lost the game. You look at the next one. But if he is out long term, this is going to be a serious blow. Not the hottest start that we've seen from Robert Thomas, but he had a very good game before leaving with an upper body injury. This signifies something if you're losing out on him. Listen, they'll call someone up. Maybe Dvorsky comes up and gets into the center position, but the biggest thing is losing your top player, your best offensive threat, your best player overall. Broberg has looked like that this season, but Robert Thomas is the heart and soul on the offensive end of this team, and if you're losing out on him, you're going to have to juggle a lot of lines. Yes, we've seen Jim Montgomery change things up. You've seen Suter jump Shen down to the third. You see the wingers moving, but the most consistent thing was Robert Thomas always being that top line center. Darius, if he is out long term, if this is something where the Blues are losing him for multiple games, do you think this is going to kind of scare the St. Louis Blues? They're going to have to change something. And do you think maybe Dvorsky is the guy they call up?
Yeah, I mean, if they're gonna call somebody up, listen, they might go into and play with some weird stuff because Bukestad's actually a center, so maybe they just play with their depth that's already on the team. But and then obviously Texier, maybe he comes back into the mix. So I don't know if they want to. It really depends how long Thomas is out and what that looks like, and we'll keep you guys updated tomorrow. I'm sure we're gonna get an update on that specifically tomorrow, so we'll have a video then. But that's a tough blow. But I think it's a next man up mentality, right? Like you gotta just keep going. There's a lot of really skilled players on this team that should be able to produce points, and like you said, that's been the one constant this year. He has not moved from his spot. He is the first line center of this team, and he's got to be that guy for the team. So losing him, that is going to be tough. That's for sure. But everyone has to be better. Everybody has to chip in, right? Neighbors, for example, off to a hot start. Holloway on the fourth line. The guy's got to get going here. The blender's out. They got to start fighting for each other. And what I think is going to, turn the tide a little bit here, for lack of a better term, is heading into November. The goaltending, first of all, you flashed it there on screen. It's got to be better. It just has to be better. And I know some of the things you can pin on the defense and even Logan Mailloux to a degree. These are all things that are true, right? But all of these things are contributing to it. But the one thing that I think is going to turn the tide is somebody's going to push the wrong button on another team with one of these players, and somebody has to drop the gloves or just something. Somebody has to drag this team into the fight at this point, and then they'll all come together as a group. So they just need a moment like that. Obviously, it's got to be set up perfectly, I guess. I don't know when it's going to be, but that might be exactly what this team needs going forward. So all of that to say, hopefully Robert Thomas is not out long term, but it's tough. Something has to happen here. There has to be some type of spark.
And Blues fans, what is your thoughts on this? What do you change within this team? Is it something where you go out and you look at the goaltending? Listen, both awesome. We've seen the reports that Colton Ellis is a guy Buffalo's afraid to put on waivers because they think the Blues are going to poach him. Maybe they get another goaltender, run three. What is your thoughts on the forward line? What do they do with Robert Thomas out? Let us know down in the comments. And speaking on comments, let's go into comments of the day. Coming through with a Montreal fan here, and Mailloux to the AHL, and find out very quickly he is not the problem. After watching replays, I find it hard to put a player out of position, and the goalies are just not playing well, and I think that's the biggest thing. Listen, bringing in Mailloux, seeing how good Bolduc had the start of a season with Montreal, so getting Mailloux, and fans want to point fingers, but I don't think he's the issue. Listen, he wasn't there for the sixth goal.
Didn't play.
Yeah, exactly. He wasn't on the ice for 6 goals allowed, so the big thing is, what is your guys' thoughts on Mailloux? Do you send him to the AHL? Do you look for another veteran defenseman to bring in? Let us know all your thoughts down in the comments. While down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back another episode. We're not the problem, so listen, do not blame us for the game last night. I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Darius, and take care, Blues fans.